in law enforcement, we feel the pain. We feel the same pain that every one of our members in our community and individuals across this nation is feeling as it relates to Mr. George Floyd. 800,000 members of law enforcement, that's how many exist in this country, watched an individual who shares the same uniform, wears the same badge that we wear. We watched him murder another individual with reckless regard for human life and with no empathy. And what we came to realize, and I think most of us always did, that there are challenges in law enforcement. We have to admit, acknowledge, atone for the things that we've seen in law enforcement. And although there has been many, many strides and many moves in our organization to stamp out this behavior, it exists in our agencies. And it exists because systemically and culturally, policing has some challenges. And so what we recognize in law enforcement today, and I'm thankful for the men and women in the city of Dallas who has worked alongside of even councilmen for the last 3 years to come to the table and identify some of the challenges that we face in broken relationships. Our policing strategies over the years has created a wedge between law enforcement and our community, and we have to work to fix it. And we've been doing the work. So that's not the question of whether we're doing the work or not. We have advisory boards. We have stakeholder meetings where individuals come and tell us what they want to see different in our organizations, and we've made every effort and changes in those areas within our general orders. But it's bigger than that. We have to acknowledge that we need early warning systems in our police departments to ensure that we are able to mitigate any challenges that officers are having very early on, or look at some of the issues that may be prevalent right away. An early warning system that notifies a supervisor immediately when an officer has 3 or more instances or incidents in 1 month, so that we can get in, intervene, mitigate, get the right services, or say that this individual is not fit for law enforcement. Additionally, we have to be more transparent. When things happen in our organizations, we have to be able to push that information out. One of the things we're working on is a video release policy to make sure that within 24 to 48 hours when a officer-involved shooting or a critical incident happens, that we can get that information to the public. There are challenges, whether it is the legal system with the DA in pushing this case forward or trying it, in those challenges, but I can say thank you, DA Cruzo. We've been working to figure out how we can do this and how we can do this effectively so that everyone has a bird's eye view into what we're doing in our agency. We have to become a legitimate organization that our residents, business leaders can truly trust and believe in. And we only do that by being as transparent as we possibly can. We also have some systems in place that keep law enforcement officers who should not be on our department. We can, as chiefs, terminate individuals, and then we have a system that brings them right back into our organizations. And we also have individuals in our organization who cannot testify in court, but they're still parts of our organization. And so we have to say, if your integrity doesn't line up with what we do in law enforcement, then we have to make some tough decisions. I will stand by the fact that the Dallas Police Department has some of the best police officers in this country. And the majority of us, the large majority of us, show up every day with the right intentions. But the ones that don't, we have to have a swift system that allows us to get rid of these individuals, because everything someone does in law enforcement, it doesn't matter if they're in Portland, Maine, or in Los Angeles, California, it affects everyone wearing this uniform. So we cannot afford to have systems in place that tie our hands. We have work to do. We haven't always done it right. Sitting in this seat I've gotten it wrong on some occasions. But what we do in those instances is we acknowledge it, we own it, we fix it so we can move forward.
I want to say that I think that we all recognize and acknowledge that we have a long way to go, and that there is no magic pill. If it were, then we'd come forth with it and we'd say, okay, here's the magic pill and all of our issues be resolved. But instead it is a process. And so this is what we have started here today. It's all about a process where we have those difficult discussions, and we have to reach a point where we are comfortable in having uncomfortable conversations. I was thinking about the fact that we're all cloaked in our masks today. And I don't know about you, but it's very uncomfortable for me. It starts to get on my nerves after a while, frankly. And so I take it off. But although it's uncomfortable, it is something that has to be done. It is something that is necessary, something that we have to do. And so this is like the process. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It's something that we have to do. And we, as law enforcement leaders, must set the example. I have a scripture that I love to recite to my people, and it simply says that to whom much is given, much is required. That means simply that as law enforcement officers, we have to recognize that we have been given great responsibility. And because we have been given great responsibility, we have great responsibility to answer for our actions. That means that we have to be accountable for what it is that we do. And so even today, I'm thinking, how do we take what it is that has happened, not just recently, but things that have happened in the past, those flashpoints in law enforcement, how can we take those and insert those into our basic training and teach our folks who are coming through from the beginning what it is to truly be a trusted law enforcement officer? So I think that what we have to do is we have to work on the training that we're giving to our officers. In addition, we have to continue to be accountable to our community. And furthermore, we have to interact with our community in instances where it's not necessarily an enforcement action. We have to be in the community. We have to go to the people, and we have to learn our people. Because, you know, people fear what they don't know. And so if we don't know one another, we tend to fear one another. So that's why it's important for us to get out into the communities and to continue our community policing and not let it just be a catchphrase, not let it just be something that a couple of people in each department participate in. It needs to be a philosophy, and it needs to be one that is genuine, one that is clear, and one that says not only to the community, but to the employees of the police department that we are involved in the community, we care about the community, we are the community.
I am a black man, and even if I did not have a mirror, I'm reminded of it when I turn on the TV. Even if I didn't have a TV, I'm reminded of it when I get in my car and drive to work. Even if I didn't have a car, even if I didn't listen to the radio when I'm at work and someone says, hey, can I call you Jay as opposed to Jesuorobo, I'm reminded I'm a black man. Not only that, but I experienced racism even on a microaggressive level. We're here talking about policing, but I think we need to have a larger conversation, and let's start here. A policeman that makes an error in judgment gets a second chance. A black man and a woman that makes an error in judgment gets prison time. Let's start there. Many of those lapses in judgment are crimes out of poverty. I grew up in the 90s as the mayor and chief, and I have friends who were introduced to the jail to prison pipeline in elementary school and in junior high. due to going to reform school. I have friends who lost the ability to go to college because of the fact that they were arrested and convicted on drug charges, and as a result could not get federal student aid. I think as a senator, you could change the law tomorrow, removing the question of asking someone that fills out the free federal aid form if they have a drug conviction. Let's talk about the opioid epidemic. We're showing a lot of compassion for those that are suffering from opioids. What happened to the compassion for those that were suffering from crack? We talk about where are the fathers? A lot of the fathers are in jail. Why are they in jail? For committing crimes out of poverty. I grew up in a single-parent household. Luckily, I had a grandfather that was there for me every day. A lot of black men weren't as fortunate as I am. But one thing that we have to understand is that there's a difference between a crime of malice and a crime out of poverty. No one wants to be a drug dealer. No child decides that when I grow up I want to be a drug dealer. And most drug dealers barely make enough money to take care of the basics. But when you have a young man he sees his mother breaking her neck every day to try to take care of the family, and he can't get a job, he has limited options, what does he do? He does whatever it takes in order to take care of his family. You have young men who are skilled in accounting, marketing, and sales, and they can't get a job in a Fortune 500 company because of the fact that they have a conviction on their record. And they can't go to college because of that conviction. But we have to talk about the fact that if we really want to fix policing, we have to fix our criminal justice system. Because our criminal justice system is designed to punish, not rehabilitate. We have to allow people second chances, true second chances. You should be able to take part in the American dream just as anyone else. And for far too long, the black community has lived in a different America. An America where you look outside of your neighborhood and you see a war zone of over-policing, crime, poverty, food deserts, substandard education. But then you turn on the TV and you see this glory that's America, this miracle. Where's the miracle for them? Our community has lost faith in institutions and leaders. We saw in the last presidential election that there were more people that didn't vote than did. That shows you that there is a lack of faith in our governments. We have to earn trust. Right now, the conscience of our nation is speaking. There are people speaking in all 50 states on Black Lives Matter. And I think that one of the things that no one should ever mention is that all lives matter. That should not be mentioned from anyone's lips until we recognize that black lives matter. Because until black lives matter, all lives don't matter.